He's back there.
Yeah, he's back. All right, welcome everyone. February the 5th is now 6:30 PM. Welcome to the regular Planning Zoning Commission meeting tonight. We do have a quorum. Tonight you have myself, Derek Parks is the chair. Vice Chair Michael is present, Karen, member is present, and also Susie is present. From the city staff, we have Ben, Director of Development Services, and Emma, the Planning Zoning Manager here tonight. We have one consent agenda item tonight, and that's approving the minutes from January the 2nd, 2024. Commissioners, did y'all have any questions or concerns regarding those minutes?
No questions.
Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Now going to the new business, which is number 2. This is a public hearing and consider zoning change from 107 R3 to Plan Development 107 R4 for the development of a restaurant with a private club for on-site alcohol consumption on the site located on the northwest corner of Harmony Way and North Interstate 35 and described as Lot 3 and a portion of Lot 4, Block A of Red Oak Legacy Square Addition, and addressed as 609 North Interstate 35, City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-02, requested by Victron Stores. Staff, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a request for a proposed restaurant right off of Harmony Way and I-35 Service Road located here. The PD was approved for commercial uses. So the reason this is coming before you is that you all have to review the elevations, the site plan and the landscape plan just to make sure that it's in conformance and it meets really the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance. And they have submitted the landscape plan. They've met all of the city's minimum landscaping requirements. Access to the site will be via Harmony Way through a common access easement on the west. And access will also be in eventually in the north when this property develops. There'll be a common access easement.
There is already a connection that goes, because B&B did a connection through to 35, so there's already a connection to the north down through their park.
And here are the attached elevations. They're showing a mixture of stone veneer, brick, split face CMU. It's really some of the traditional Olive Garden architecture that they submitted. With this site, it is a single lot, but they are adding an addition to the north. So they did submit an amending plat. So we are recommending approval on the condition that that property gets approved. The amending plat gets approved with this sliver of property that was added from the north before the building permit gets issued. So it's this sliver right here. And they actually have submitted the amending plat. They're just, they're looking at design before they finalize.
Okay.
The sliver of property up here.
Okay, thank you, Emma.
Mhm.
This is a public hearing. So those that are in favor of this item, you can go first, and those who's against this item can go second. So if you can step up to the podium. Please.
Good evening, Michael Westfall with Westfall Engineering, 1719 Angel Parkway in Allen, Texas. I'm the civil engineer for the project. One thing I'd like to request is that the amending plat could be approved prior to the certificate of occupancy instead of the building permit, primarily because we're still working with franchise utility companies for transformer electrical easements. And I would like to wait and not get the plat done and then have to come back and create separate instrument easements for that. But the plat has been submitted. to the city, and we just asked to hold off on that until we get those final easements done. But we're here to answer any questions you have on the development as well.
Thank you, sir. Those that have any questions or maybe against this item? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Commissioners, y'all have any questions regarding agenda item 2?
What kind of issues does it raise for us to wait to approve the plat? As is requested?
None really. It's not a great idea to issue permits on properties that you're crossing property lines on. However, this is all being developed by, I believe, the owner of both lots. Is that correct? So not really an issue, in this case. It's just, again, not wanting improvements across property lines and approve that without the actual property lines being moved officially, but, no real issue considering that
Both
it's
properties.
both owned by the same
Owned by the same
property
person.
owner and developer.
And that additional space there, what was necessitated that? Was it for the parking or is it?
Yes, it was for the parking, which I assume any additional restaurant that comes on the pad to the north will enter into a parking agreement to utilize that parking as well. I don't know if there's plans for it already or not, but.
For the north lot?
Yes.
Yes.
No, there's no plans right now for that. It's gonna likely be a quick serve restaurant or some other type of use like that. But the Olive Garden site didn't need to be a little bit bigger than what we initially anticipated for more parking, so.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or concerns? If not, can I have a motion, please?
Move to close the public hearing. Oh, we're sorry. Making a motion to approve with the recommendation or with the request made by the engineer. Did I do it that way, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that request was?
Was to allow for him to have the plat approved prior to certificate of occupancy.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 2 has been approved. Moving along to number 3, and up under new business is another public hearing of zoning change from Plan Development 66R5 to Plan Development 66R6 for the development of a convenience store with gas pumps on the site identified PID number 274-599 and located on the northwest corner of Cole and Avila Road within the Edmund Shirley Survey, abstract number 1013, City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat 24-01, requested by Matthew Smith. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this is similar to the last request. This is a PD that was approved with several possible uses. And the proposed use here is a convenience store with gas pumps off the corner of Avila and Cole Road, as shown here. The use is permitted, but they are required to submit a site plan, landscape plan, and elevation plans. So this is the entire site, but they're only proposing to develop the west portion. So eventually, when someone else comes in, they'll develop the east portion. And they've shown here a conceptual plan so that if someone comes in here, it's possible for there to be an access easement that goes through this site and through the subject site. And then the future property will still have access to Cole Road. But this is not written in stone. It's just showing conceptually that it can work out when someone comes to develop. They are also showing reflecting a patio here area at the back, which will be on the side that is adjacent to, that's closest to the park to the north, with fencing outdoor furniture and umbrella covers, just for like, for example, if there's any players or patronizers that are finishing up from the store, they can sit down and have a drink or a snack. So they are including that towards the back of the site. They are as well, they did submit the signage package, and the signage, all of it is actually in compliance with our base zoning requirements, but they will still need a sign permit when they come in through to submit for permits. And they do, right now, they're having this reflected as 2B Masonry, the applicant, and I believe he's on Zoom, but they're wanting to know if they could have more time. So basically between now and city council to actually reflect what it's going to appear like, the columns on the pole sign, to have it bricked or with stone. But between now and the next city council meeting, they said they'll have that ready.
Okay.
So when we did have our development review committee meeting, when we were discussing with the applicants, we discussed some examples of other 7-Eleven locations. And we felt that this example lended more to the existing neighborhood area with its architectural style and its massing and form. So this was a recommendation that we recommended that they follow. So that was just something that we put in there, but they did finalize on these elevations
Okay.
for the submittal.
Yeah, so I think our thought was, Emma, can you go back to like an aerial view? So I can pan out a little bit. So our thought was you know, right there to the north, you've got the soccer fields, was to be able to integrate not only Ovilla Road, which is gonna be most of their gas, consumers, but they're also coming in for the convenience portion, but also having the soccer fields be, having the patrons of the soccer field walk across the street, get their Gatorades, get their waters, grab a quick snack in between games or whatever. And so trying to integrate it into the neighborhood as much as possible, which is why we kind of showed that other store that had the back patio, and if you look at the site plan, it's got sidewalks and things that lead up to that back door. So it's kind of dual fronted. So you've got the main front entrance that's, you know, going to serve the majority of the customers, but we also wanted to serve the neighborhood as a neighborhood function, and really the neighborhood being that soccer park.
Okay.
But that was the thought behind that. And then additionally, when we were, so that was kind of a layout perspective. And as Emma said, we thought that something along the lines of what she had showed would be more appropriately fit in more appropriately to the neighborhood, even though it is on Ovilla Road. It would just fit in well with the surrounding homes and be something that looks good along Ovilla. You know, we've had several 7-Elevens that we've done in the past 5 to 10 years, and they're pretty good, and we just wanted to keep moving up in the aesthetic, I guess, is kind of where our thought process was in showing them these elevations. And actually, I believe the developer actually did this one. Is that right, Emma?
I believe either, I think you said it too.
He was either involved in it or did it.
Mhm.
So he was obviously very familiar with this store because he developed it or was involved in it somehow.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Em. Appreciate that. This is a public hearing. Those are in favor of this item, you can go first. Please state your name and your address. And those after that, you can go second. And if you have any questions or if you're against this item. So the floor is open for those who are for this item tonight, agenda item 3. Or any questions regarding this agenda item.
Emma, is somebody on Zoom? Okay.
Yeah, can y'all hear me? This is Matthew Smith. I'm the developer on the deal.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I apologize. My wife had to go out of town unexpectedly and we have a 4-month-old, so I apologize for not being in person. But if it's all right, is this a good time for me to speak on the project?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So yes, I will basically reiterate everything that Ben and Emma said. I actually was not the developer on this deal that y'all are showing, but we all work very closely together, so I was very familiar with the project. I spoke to Emma earlier today, and all I was going to say is, as it relates to the patio, is that 7-Eleven prefers not to have any type of coverage from an, umbrella or, shade standpoint due to, potential loitering or anything of that nature, but they are on board to do it here. That's why they didn't have any covers on the one shown. That is their preference, but are amenable to whatever whatever y'all would like to see. Because we're very excited about this deal. I've been working on this with Mr. Hargrove for 3 years now. We finally got 7-Eleven on board and open to any questions. I will say the only difference between this one and the one down the street is there is not going to be a Laredo taco in this one. This will be a standard C-store from their operation standpoint with just a larger footprint of more, beverage items to offer and more of the fresh grab and go in the morning lunch type of items, since they're not offering the Laredo taco. And then we will also own the adjacent property, which we are currently working with a national coffee user on, which we're excited about. But I would leave the floor open to y'all for any questions. And I really appreciate y'all's time. And again, I apologize for not being there in person.
Thank you, sir. No problem. We appreciate you. Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so I spoke with them earlier. So within 7-Eleven permits and installs all their own signage. So for me to update the sign package that y'all have in front of you, I have to send it to them and then they send it off to their sign company. So the requests get lost in translation. What I would like to propose is for y'all to, if it goes this way, is to approve it with a condition that we will add masonry to the signage where it's called out to be updated to masonry columns. What they sent back this morning was basically a masonry base, which is not what I requested, but I did not have time to update. So if you do make a recommendation to approve this with the condition that we will be able to update the columns before it goes before city council on the pole sign or the pylon sign.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Commissioners, any questions or concerns regarding agenda item 3?
So what was the feedback we got on that other recommendation for the elevation stuff?
That it was expensive and they didn't want to do it. I would say, like I said, we've done 2 other ones in the past 7 years. And I'd like to see them getting progressively better. This is substantially better. And it's really just a matter of opinion of what the one they're proposing is it better or not better? That would be up to commission and council to have an opinion on. Can we street view those others real quick? You know where the stop. Wow. The one on 342 was far back enough to have a street view, but I don't think the new one is. So this is the one that was built in 2017. I think it finished up in 2018. So it got good fenestrations, good offsets, good use of material, appropriate change in material at the inside corners, so on and so forth. I don't think the new one with the Laredo Taco is gonna be able to. It's gonna show up. Yeah, it's still under construction.
They have the one, just not quite the one that, the road and Yule.
Yeah, I think that one may be too new as well, but let's check.
That was more like these elevations.
Yeah, it's not showing up at all. So, just quite different than something like this. It has some protrusions and they give it a little architectural styling. It's still very flat. Best. Right. So, I mean, you kind of just see the outline of the building,
Mhm.
being very flat, whereas the one on 342 kind of came out here like this and, out on the side as well. So just gives visual interest and gives us spot to change materials, to give it a little more character. So we always try to recommend things like that.
Can I speak to that or
Get
do I have
A
to
better,
wait?
better product every time we're doing something, especially when we're trying to fit something into an area.
Okay, makes sense.
Can I make some comments on that? Can you also hear me?
That are right there. Adjacent to the neighborhood and more inviting for people to walk over to from the park as well. That's why the place you want to go and not just.
Sure.
This one.
Yeah,
Yes,
this one.
I agree.
Are you saying this one or the one in the photos?
The one.
Right.
The one in the photos is definitely more appealing. Especially with sprouting houses.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that developer said that the 2-story windows were tough for them, and to me, I just said copy this building, and maybe there's an in between where they can copy some of it, but not all of it. I don't know. But they just didn't seem interested in doing that, and I think I don't want to put words in their mouth, but what I remember was we've got this designed out for what the lease will fit. And so that's, if they didn't want to do more than what the agreement or the lease they already had with the potential. Because if I remember correct, it was not a corporate store. It was going to be a franchise store. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you, Ben. Any more questions, commissioners, concerns?
Can you also hear?
So if we want them to have a different design, we just don't approve this tonight, because
I would ask them to bring something back that has massing more similar to something like this, maybe my request was too crass and to just say, copy this building, but there was no further discussion of how we could get something like this, maybe just a little bit less.
Yeah, my concern is that's one of the best parks we have around here. And this is almost inside this neighborhood. I mean, I know it's not, and I know this property is commercial and intended to be commercial, but it is
It is at the entrance of the neighborhood.
right.
Yeah, it is.
It's right there.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
And asking to this photos that was added by staff here, understand that that's probably asking a lot for that neighborhood, but I think they could come up a little more than just the basic model, for the storefront and make it fit more into the neighborhood, more
Well-
seamless into the neighborhood.
And also, if they're going to bring another national coffee chain, I just think it needs to blend in better, because then we're gonna have two buildings that are at the entrance of a neighborhood in front of a park. I'm sure it's gonna be great for business. I have no qualms about that whatsoever. But I think it needs to assimilate
area.
into the neighborhood and to the area a little bit better. So I would be more sold on having the masonry and something that has an elevation that speaks a little bit better.
Can you zoom out a little bit? So also, one thing that we need to be careful of is, all the way across here, that's all zone commercial, so we're setting the tone. So we don't want to set the tone low.
Right.
And then the next guy come in and be like, well, you let them do that. We're just gonna copy that building. Cause then we're all gonna be like, well, okay, I guess that fits with the other building, but now we're just saying this building fits with this building and
Exactly.
it's maybe lower than it should be. I don't know.
I think we need to have a high bar. The
Yes.
property on the other side of Rocket. We know that Rocket will never be
Right,
developed.
Right.
Because that's not going anywhere. Does the property next to Rocket, that is not the 7-Eleven, that parcel, is that owned by Rocket?
no, that's owned by the same property owner
Okay,
that 7-Eleven is buying from. And then on the other side of Cole, that's all frontage for commercial as well.
we definitely need to set a high bar. Because once the street is done, whatever millennia that is, that's gonna set the whole tone for people driving through Red Oak.
Susie, bringing up the point of the street, that entrance that we're proposing for the lot, is it far enough from Cole?
Yes, it meets the standard text dot. I can't remember what the exact number is, it's 300 or 320 or something like that.
But whatever goes in adjacent on Cole there, right next to Cole's gonna have to share what that is.
Correct, and so when they split the lot to do this development, then we would have access easements that go
Right.
to serve that development.
No, it's gonna be.
So I'm of the opinion that we should send it back and let them come up with some other ideas or give us a better idea of what they're putting in there for one. And maybe suggest that they come closer to the ideas that staff presented. Secondly, that'll give them opportunity to get their mock-ups done for the sign that they don't have right now anyway. We were gonna have to make an exception just to approve it tonight. So maybe they could come back with something different while they're getting the mock-ups for the sign ready.
Commissioners, what do you
I'm just saying, we just want to be real clear to tell them, use these pictures as example, use the massing of the building in terms of your offsets and your material changes. Can't really go that
We're
far, but we'll
been
just
limited on the
talk more
materials.
about massing than specific materials. But I think the picture, you know, is always worth 1,000 words, right?
Right.
So if it can be a version of that, maybe it's not 29 feet tall or however tall that building is, more of a one story. Still has the mass elements that on the corners are framed up, you know. Can you go to the picture, Emma? Yeah, so you see how the corners are. The mass of the corners is brought out to kind of put the spaces together a little more appropriately and really define where, you know, your entrance is and your, you got a spot for your signage and so on and so forth.
So Ben, when you gave him this picture, that's how they came up with Exhibit E? Or
No,
is that,
No, so they kind of submitted that off from the outset and given that we were trying to integrate the park and the neighborhood with the back entry,
Mhm.
this is one that I knew of that had 2 entries. And just thought that, like, this is the back of the store, so this is what would be facing the soccer fields.
right,
In this picture. And so that's why, that was just the inspiration to give it to them and just say, well, if we do this, it kind of hits all the buttons that we're thinking about. Is you got a big front entry for your people along the villa, and then you've got a cool back entry for folks that are coming over from the soccer field.
okay.
I do appreciate the picture. That'll be good.
Mhm. So Ben, would it be a problem for us to table this till the next meeting and let them, or they've heard our comments tonight, they understand what we're looking for. We'll give them opportunity to get back with their corporate and figure out what they're gonna do with those signs. Be able to come before us with the recommendations on the signs, as well as any other alterations they may want to make to the plans.
Yep. Yep, we should be able to table or motion to table with the request that they bring back elevations more similar to this.
What do you think, Susie? Pretty much the same?
Yeah, I'm just not sold on that regular 7-Eleven convenience look, which is fine for some areas that are already developed commercially. But this is smack dab the entrance to a neighborhood. And there's a house directly across the street. I don't know what will happen with that house eventually. I mean, it is occupied. The coal side is county. So at least on the south side of Ovilla, that's county until you get to my development. But that is, it is the invitation into a neighborhood.
Right.
So I really do think that there needs to be something a little, the bar needs to be set higher, because once we develop these other areas around it, which are gonna get developed, we don't want it to look shabby. Those businesses are gonna have to fit in to the neighborhood, not the neighborhood shoved into the commercial zoning.
All right. And can I have a motion for agenda item 3, please?
I'd like to make a motion to table agenda item 3 and have the developer come back with their proposed change or elevations that are more similar to the recommendations that have been made by staff, as well as finalization on their mock-ups for the masonry around the signage in front of the store.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 3 has been tabled. Moving along, with agenda item 4, which is, conduct a public hearing and zoning change from, RAE to Plan Development 168 to allow reduced setbacks and acreage on the site described as proposed Lot 1, Block A of McDaniel subdivision and addressed as 420 North Lawrence Road, City of Red Oak, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-48, requested by Adrian and Vanessa. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this request was actually brought to you all during the last P and Z meeting. But the applicant, did make some changes to the request before the, encroachment into the 25-foot side yard setback was 4 feet. So now they're asking for it to be 10 feet, into the side yard setback. And they are increasing the, size of the addition. It's now going to be approximately 1,415 square feet. Even with the addition of the home and even with the increased encroachment into the setback, it still meets the separation requirements for, fire safety, of a minimum of 10 feet. It well exceeds that. And they did submit elevations. The elevations will, the building materials will be similar to the existing building materials with the siding and the brick and the asphalt, roofing. And the addition will be a bedroom, a restroom, sunroom, laundry room, and game room.
Okay, that's all?
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Emma. This is a public hearing. And those who are in favor of this item, you can come to the podium, or if you're on Zoom, you can speak on Zoom. If you're for this item, please state your name and your address. And those who are against this item or maybe have questions can go second tonight. So, okay, go ahead.
Back again. I was here last month.
Thank
We had made some additions prior to January, and I thought we all had them, but
State your name, please, for the
oh,
record.
sorry,
and address.
Vanessa Salazar, owner of 420 North Lawrence Road.
Mm.
So we made some additions here. We added the game room upstairs, and I think that was all the difference that we had, right, besides the setbacks. But this was our final design. It's been a journey, so we're just hoping everything's approved so we can go ahead and move forward with building.
Thank you.
And my name, Hank Quigg, I'm the architect, and what had happened is the wrong package got submitted, an
Mhm.
earlier package, and we realized when we were in the meeting that it was messed up, and it was like, we just need to go back to staff and make sure we get the right thing in, so that's the reason for coming back to you, because it's actually the plan we met with staff about, it just didn't get submitted correctly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that, oh, I'm sorry. We did have I'm sorry, we had a letter here from Bruce Muirhead. Guess that's how you say his last name. Address is 50 Lawrence Road. He's checked the box of against. He said very nice people, but it's going to be unfair to the people next door. Not for sure what that is, but that's what he stated. So that's against letter from a citizen here in Red Oak. So I'm gonna go ahead and can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So,
All in favor?
aye.
Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions or concerns?
So we approved this last month, or was it 2 months ago?
Yes, that's.
Last month.
Last-
Have the setbacks changed?
Yes,
And what's the difference between? what we
it's
approved?
about almost 7 feet. So
Okay.
before it was encroaching 4 feet, now it's encroaching 10 feet,
Okay,
10 plus. And this is all just like point something.
right. And what does that leave between the two? I understand we're.
About 14 feet, 7 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, between the property line,
Couldn't find it.
14 feet.
Between them and their neighbor.
Yeah, in the property line.
So
yeah,
it's
see,
still,
Property line.
there's still
meeting the minimum
meeting the
separation of.
minimum
lines.
separation of 10
Yes,
feet.
yes. For fire safety,
And that's between homes, not.
not
Not
between
property
property
lines.
lines, right,
That's structure to structure.
right.
So when this is all said and done, that home will be 14 feet from the residence next to it,
Correct. From the property line.
from the property line.
Any more questions, Commissioner? Any concerns? Karen, anything from you? Okay.
It looks like that, resident to the south is not much farther from the property line than 14 feet. So it's about the same as them.
Yeah, so structure to structure, it's
Yeah, they're still pretty-
almost 30, like 27, 28 feet.
Can I have a motion for agenda item 4, please?
I move that we approve agenda item 4 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 4 has been approved. Moving along to, agenda item 5, which is another public hearing. Zoning change from, agricultural district to plan development 169 for a mixed-use development, with single-family homes and commercial use on a site located approximately, 1,450 feet south of Eastville Villa Road and east of, North State Highway 342, described as a tract of land situated in Benjamin E. Fraser Survey, abstract number 371, and the McKinney and Williams Survey, abstract number 751, and identified with, PID numbers 188-281 and 228-225, City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 24-03, requested by A.N. Moore Consulting LLC. Staff, please.
Commissioners, this is a proposed horizontal mixed use project east, which is located east of 342. This large property here, it's recently, this eastern portion has recently been annexed into city limits. And the proposal is for 210 single-family homes, which will be on one lot at the eastern portion. And the commercial portion will be at the front. But right now, they're proposing to develop in detail, only the residential aspect of it. So the portion to the north, or actually west, which will touch 342, will be commercial, and the developer will actually have to come in and develop the site. And that will trigger a PD amendment. Access to the site will be from 342. Our comprehensive plan does it does allow residential development, but only in the context of mixed-use development. And the applicant has attempted to submit a layout that has some aspect of horizontal mixed-use development. The homes for horizontal, to qualify as a horizontal mixed-use development, it should be walkable when it's not vertical. So they are walkable. The homes will range from about 833 square feet to about 1,560 square feet. So about from 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms units. The entire site, as I mentioned, it will be on the residential aspect will be on one lot. So property management will manage all of the landscaping, all of the open spaces. They are dedicating the pond to the city. So they'll have to maintain all of the detention structures, but this will be dedicated to the city, and they have provided public parking along the west side of the pond. And this just shows the kind of an enlargement of the entrance to the site. We did talk with them. Initially, what they submitted for the commercial buildings, it was more of your auto-centric type of design with the commercial buildings just along 342, but we did talk with them about having the buildings up close to the street, so kind of to create a more pedestrian-oriented type of development, and they actually did do that by pushing them along the street and providing sidewalks and actually having the parking located internally. So this is a unique type of development in that all of the homes, the front will face each other. So all of the sidewalks will be located between each other. And the garages will face all of we're calling them internal drives because they're not streets, but we're gonna also label them as public access easements so that the public can have access to the ponds. All of the garages will face these aisles. And I will.
Can you go back to that? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
All the garages will what?
Sure.
Right, okay, I see it.
So the garages will face the public. So as you can see, this is, for example, this is a garage and that's facing the public aisle. And this is the front entry of the home. So when someone comes out, they see their neighbor. Here's the sidewalk, all of the landscaping. An ornamental tree will be provided along the frontage of each of the homes with shrubbery located in the front as well. They're also providing a clubhouse for the residents, a fire pit, and kind of this passive open areas within the subdivision so that residents can gather, which also attributes to creating a pedestrian-oriented development. They also provided a lighting plan. The lighting will be provided every 300 feet, and the open spaces will also have lighting. Fencing will be a 6-foot brick fence that will be located between the residential development and the commercial development. And between the residential development to the south and to this development. There will be ornamental fencing between the front yards. And these are some elevations that they submitted. So the 4 main architectural styles that were submitted were Texas traditional, colonial, French provincial, and craftsman styles. And within those architectural styles, there'll be 14 elevations of them. So they submitted an anti-monotony schedule to show that they can't repeat elevations across the street and within 3 homes. The elevations can't be repeated. This is the elevation of some of the larger this example of the garage, how it's going to appear from the internal drives. We did discuss with them when it was originally submitted. The garages were really pretty plain, so we did discuss with them about adding some of the articulations. They added some of the lighting and the accents, the garage material. So this is how it's going to look driving down the street.
These pictures from the front elevation look like there's a lot of green space, but there's
What's that?
not. The pictures with these front elevations look like there's a lot of green space in front, but there's not really.
Right, you'd be in your house looking
Yeah.
at the
Yes.
other house across.
Looking at your neighbor.
across the views.
Okay.
So then there'd be homes right here.
Which is about how many feet?
From them to you.
I think it's on one of the blow-up images, wasn't it?
In 26, right there.
At 12.6.
12.5
12.6
to
plus
12.5. So
25 feet.
30 feet from.
Yeah, 25
front
feet.
to front.
How deep is this room?
Home to, huh?
How deep is this room? From where I'm sitting to the back wall?
You said?
From where I'm sitting to the back wall?
Oh,
I don't think it's even 25 feet. Is it?
From-
Y'all are
from
better at-
Where you're sitting to the wall is well over 25 feet.
mhm.
That was my concern.
About 40.
Yeah, so it's 30 feet because you've got 12.6 for the little front yard plus a 5 foot sidewalk in between,
Okay.
so.
Are these gonna be fenced in between?
So there's gonna have the metal fencing in between. Let me go back to the,
So there's a small courtyard in the front. It's basically, so your front yard is like for a small area, garden area.
do you see where these lines
Yes.
are here? That's the
Yes.
fencing.
So in between the homes, there'll be no fencing. I'm assuming that's gonna be a beltway, a green beltway in between the homes?
Here?
Mhm.
Yes.
The applicant is here with a presentation and so a lot of more questions can be answered as
So-
they present.
I have a lot of
Just
questions, but I
select
guess we should do the public hearing first.
Okay.
Let's show you all the plan. This is the anti-monotony table I was referring to. So there'd be a total of 14 different elevation homes,
Okay.
and that's just utilities.
All right. Thank you, Emma. This is a public hearing. Those in favor of this item, you can go first. Please state your name and your address, and those who maybe have any questions, you can go second, please.
All right, good evening.
Good
My name
evening.
is Nikki Moore. I'm an independent consultant that specializes in land use and entitlements. A little bit about my background is that I spent the first part of my career in municipal government, so I can empathetically kind of understand the push and pull between, municipal government and cities and developers. Some say I kind of went to the dark side now, so. But hopefully we can kind of like use that as a communication tool to get to what we both are after.
Maybe you, I'm sorry, are you with the consulting company here on the,
Yes,
okay,
yes, yes,
and
that's my
can you state
company.
your address also?
Yes, we're at 4416 Eaton Circle. That's in Colleyville, 76034.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course. So, whatever we end up putting on the ground, you guys have to live with for 100+ years. And so, being a consultant, I kind of get to pick and choose my clients. And I really only like to work with quality developers who are going to put together a quality product that are open to doing plan development. So we can put some maintenance stipulations and some other things in there that maybe necessarily cities cannot ask for, like building materials and things of that nature. And so I have with me tonight Greystar Development. So they are going to be the developer for the residential portion of this development. They're the largest developer and property management company in the world, but they're based here locally. And one of the main project managers here, TJ, he's actually a Red Oak native. So I'd like to just introduce him, let him say a few words, and then we'll progress on with our presentation.
Good evening,
Good evening.
TJ Moore, 600 East Las Colinas Boulevard, Las Colinas or Irving. Yeah, I'm with Greystar, and I'll say this project, I know you're gonna have a lot of questions, and this is new. And I did grow up in Red Oak. I grew up on Rock Creek, 811 Rock Creek Lane. And so yeah, what we specialize in is rental housing. And the demographic has completely shifted, especially over the last 5 years, of who rents a home and what does it look like or rents an apartment. And I love apartments. We do a lot of apartments, but I have a family, and there's a lot of people that need to rent something that's not an apartment. So this housing type is just, there's nothing like it. And I assure you what you're about to see tonight and what Nikki's going to present to you has never been done by any developer anywhere. And I wanted to do it in Red Oak and found this site and I loved it. And I love everything that Red Oak has done, you know, with all of the data centers coming in. And I mean, the schools are awesome. And, you know, these are not going to be cheap. I can assure you those elevations are the nicest elevations I think I've ever seen or done. And, you know, we have worked collaboratively with the city for months to get to this point. And so while it does, you know, there's uniqueness to this, and I know Nikki's going to go into this a little bit, but you know, that muse-oriented product where it fronts on a, you know, a parkway, while they are close together, it creates community. And I can show you development after development of for sale homes where that has happened. And, you know, I've done a lot of for sale housing, and we had a joke in one of our biggest ones, which was, look, if you make the backyard small enough or the front yard small enough, people have to come out and congregate together. And that's what we want, because that creates a sticky, long-term resident that falls in love with where they are. And the other beauty of rental is it kind of lets you test out an area before you make a full commitment to buy, or it gives you an opportunity to save up to buy. And so, and the amenity package here is another thing that Nikki's going to get into, but the one thing I do want to touch on is the pond. There's a lot of fishing that happens in that pond, and we've really brought that to life with the help of the city. I mean, we're going to put in 4 different fishing piers, I think, and trail systems around it. And it is open to the public. We are dedicating it to the city. So we want this to be a complete neighborhood. And then of course the commercial up front, which as soon as this gets zoned, I think the sign's going out to start seeing, you know, if we can build some traction. So I think that's just my quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions. Nikki's going to give a much more detailed presentation, but thank you guys for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really excited to kind of present this land use plan that really capitalizes on placing that commercial along Highway 342 and then complementing that with more of a horizontal mixed use development. Let me see if I could scroll. Okay, so yeah, a little background on the site. This site is currently accessed from Highway 342. It's just south of Avila Road. There's no current development on there. It's been pretty much clear cut of trees. There is that expansive pond on the site that we're going to kind of discuss later in the presentation. And the small portion of the site was already in Red Oak city limits, and then the remaining needed to be annexed, and that was accomplished on the January 8th city council meeting. And so, yeah, at this time, there's no concrete plan for the commercial development. We'll start kind of advertising that and seeing, you know, what kind of interest we can gather. So what you see on the site plan is conceptual in nature, but really articulates the vision that staff has laid out. But a majority of our presentation will focus on that residential portion. Okay, so I really want to start at a high 10,000 foot view, and we'll kind of drill down as we go through this presentation. But first off, you know, concentrating that commercial along 342, that is super strategic. You know, the number one role in commercial development is that you are selling visibility and ease of access. And so you can only pull commercial in so far off of your access for it to really be marketable. But we want to support that. And I know y'all have been reading, I think as a leadership group, you know, Strong Towns. And so you really want to support that commercial with making it pedestrian friendly, tying it together with some kind of residential component that's super walkable. So as Emma stated earlier, we have oriented those buildings kind of up front along that sidewalk so that you're not walking through a parking lot to get to the entrance of that building. The parking has become almost secondary to the more neighborhood component. So entering that development, you're going to have this kind of divided boulevard with a landscape median. We're really going to give that a sense of place that's cohesive with decorative pavement, landscaping, monument signage, all of that. So you come in and it feels like a really good, cohesive, complementary development. This residential type neighborhood is designed to have a look and feel of a traditional single family neighborhood. The 210 homes range from 800 square feet to 1,700 square feet. That is the net square footage. All of them, whether they're 1 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, they all have standard 2-car garages for that off-street parking. In this community, some of the homes are street facing, so meaning that the garage and the front entry are both accessible from the drive aisle. I'll point those out here too. So like maybe these like right here in the corner. So you can see that they have The driveways, which would be, you know, a minimum of 18 feet length, so you have even more additional off-street parking as you're going toward that garage. But then those individual homes, the little bigger ones, they actually have a backyard too. So it meets a lot of different residential needs within one community. As say your family grows or you have a different need, you get a dog and you decide you want more yard space, et cetera. We have a lot of different offerings. So in most cases, yes, so those driveways are 18 feet in length, and those have the private backyard space. But the other homes that are more of the cute courtyard and mews facing, in this entrance, the garage is off the drive aisle, but the main entrance of the home is facing the courtyard. And I have to say, these are probably my favorite homes to live in, because your yard space is in the front home, it really promotes more neighbor interaction. You do have a little 4-foot decorative iron fence. So when you do let out Spot doesn't go chasing out a squirrel and he's a little bit more contained. And then those garages that are on the drive aisle, they are specifically designed with smaller driveways that are 5 feet maximum. And that is intentional because it deters people from doing any kind of parallel parking outside of on their driveway. So what we have planned is that you have the 2-car garage, and then there's an additional parking throughout the community for your guests or any other additional cars that you might have. Because this is a property managed community, all those cars in the community are kind of registered to the home. And so we can a little manage that, and there's no on-street parking. And the design of that is to, once again, keep the cars off the street, promote pedestrian connectivity, and visibility for that as well.
But we do have on-street on the main entry, right?
Yes. But like they're designated spaces. They're not like, you can't just park anywhere on the road. They're all fire lanes and whatnot. Yes. Okay, so now let's kind of talk about landscaping and fencing. These are kind of two big issues for me when designing plan developments. They are the first two things that will age a community. You can build a brand new community, and if you put up ugly fence and don't put any landscaping, that community is going to look 10 years old within 10 days. And so in any kind of plan development that I like to put together for cities, we're going to do quality fencing. So here we have programmed a 6-foot masonry screen wall in between the commercial and the residential uses and along the other residential portion of single family homes over here, say Plan West. On the screen. And this is just to kind of help delineate some of those private yard space, but then we'll also have those 4-foot iron fences in the front of the homes for the courtyards. As Emma mentioned earlier, you know, this site is pretty barren as it stands right now. A lot of it's kind of, you know, in the floodplain. There's not a lot of trees. So we'll be going through here, strategically planting shade trees, ornamental trees that provide shade and color in front of each of the homes, as well as shrubbery and ground covering. And then within the PD, we've actually written in maintenance standards that all of this needs to be upkept as it is intended today and as it's intended to put in. And so what that does for you as a city is it gives your code enforcement teeth per se. So in 10 years, if this property changes hands, this PD goes in with that in perpetuity. Can you say that word now? And so it allows you to, you know, withhold a CO until those things are remedies in terms of the fencing, the outside maintenance of the homes, everything kind of on the property. So it stays looking fresh and new as it continues to age. As we kind of drill down further, we've got our amenity features. So yes, there is a club kind of leasing area. It's private access for the residents. Will include a pool, fitness center, some meeting spaces. In the outdoors, we kind of programmed some passive recreational spaces, which kind of include the fire pit, some open air seating, benches, and some additional landscaping around the more pond area, trying to amenitize that for not only the residents who live here, but all of the residents who Red Oak. Throughout this process, it has come to our attention that a lot of Red Oak residents use the pond already. So we want to make that actually legal so they're not trespassing and they can use that. So we programmed a couple of 50-foot piers out here as well. So we want to, this community is not gated. We want to invite the community in to be a part of it. I know you have your trout thing, so maybe this becomes another trout fishing excursion that y'all can do also in your community. There will be some pedestrian access right down here at Fox Glen. So right now Fox Glen basically dead ends into the pond right here. And so what we'll kind of do is kind of finish that out nicely and then offer some sidewalk connectivity. So you can access it from there with your bike, walking, but then also we also want to encourage people to drive into the community as well, park, use the amenity and whatnot. Okay, so we have been working extensively with staff to create 4 distinct residential styles. So as you kind of see here, going from left to right, we have French provincial, Texas traditional. Ben has another name for it, but I can't ever pronounce it correctly. What is it?
Texana.
Texana. Okay. A colonial and a craftsman. And so right here, this is kind of an example of one of the 3-bedroom plans, kind of designed in all 4 of these different types of residential styles. And as we kind of mentioned, we got 14 across the community, so we could really ensure that we're giving you kind of more of an anti-monotonous community. It's not going to look cookie cutter, but it will look like Pleasantville. Because when I talked about all the lawn stuff, what I forgot to mention is all the lawn maintenance gets done at the same time, right? So you never have to worry about, is your neighbor's grass growing a foot high in the summer and you're the one keeping up with yours. So all that's kind of taken care of, all the maintenance inside and outside all at the same time. I'd like to also take the opportunity right now to really point out the variety of roof pitches. We have lots of brick detailing around the windows and the doors, the front porches. We've used dormers, shutters, vents, arches, and columns to all kind of articulate each of these individual styles, in addition to the brick color changes as well. All of these exteriors are, 90% masonry. We've left a little room for those accent materials that really speak to each residential style. This kind of, as you were kind of asking earlier, this would be like a Muse vantage point, if you will. The homes are 8 feet apart. If you were standing across, you kind of see these across the Muse, across the green space there. I would say 30 feet is typically, that's really generous in these type of communities. I've seen them even as small as 20 feet. So when you kind of come into one of these communities, the residents have an expectation that it's a little bit more dense, but it's not as dense as a traditional multifamily. This is even less dense than a townhome community. Townhome communities usually run about 12 dwelling units per acre. This is about 8.75. So it's a really nice transition from maybe a larger single family neighborhood into more of a commercial component when we start talking about form and scale as you're moving toward those zoning categories. All right. So this is kind of another vantage point. This is give you more idea of some of the elevation varieties that we'll be offering. These right here would be kind of for those that are on that drive aisle. So you do more have like 2 dual entrances. Your main front will be on the Muse, but this is kind of what you would see from the drive aisle. Still paying attention to those detail on these garages, kind of dressing them up so they have more of a carriage style look about them, playing more to that traditional, what do we call it, style, if you will. Let's see. All the garages will be in a complementary color toward the homes. And so you're not just gonna like have a whole entire row of just like same white garage. It'll all be blended seamlessly into the style of the home. And we also included that anti-monotony map so you can kind of see how these elevations are going to be placed and to ensure that you're not going to get any monotony. And so as TJ kind of alluded differently, this is a newer housing concept that probably has really come about over the past 10 years. And the housing market has just changed and people have changed, and their ability to buy a home is now, it's not that the desire is not there, it just happens a little later in life due to other circumstances, whether that's student loans or having children later and lifestyle, et cetera. So this has kind of become, build to rent communities have kind of become the new starter home, and they're great for those who are actually trying to cash out of their home and maybe want to stay close to family, but they want to go put their homestead exemption on a lake property, right? They're retired, maybe they want to stay close to the grandkids, but they want a house somewhere else. This is kind of helping them do that as well. And so I think it's really smart for cities, especially like Red Oak, when you're growing, you're seeing lots of development, to kind of add this into your housing portfolio. It gives, you know, folks who have left maybe to go to college and they want to come back to their hometown, but they're not ready for the larger home with the acreage, take care of a lawn, but they don't live in an apartment either. And so this gives them another option to come settle down. Also, what we're seeing a lot is folks want to build a home, but you need the equity out of your previous home to kind of get that process started. And so, but you have a family, right? You have a couple of kids. And so you need a 3-4 bedroom home that you can rent, maybe maintenance free, to keep your kids plugged into the schools and whatnot while you're kind of building that home and getting connected to the community where you want to raise your family. And so it's just a really, really great thing to kind of have in your housing portfolio to offer. And lastly, you know, we kind of talked a lot about these, how, you know, they integrate well into single family neighborhoods, surrounding neighborhoods. All of the kind of property is maintained, but really they bring in a lot of taxable value to cities. And this taxable value is not subject to your homestead exemptions and your senior exemptions. And so you're getting the full value out of that. And so what this graph's kind of showing you is just right now on the whole entire 28 acres, what you're kind of currently getting from this property as it stands now. This is actually even just showing the revenue for the developed residential portion, not even including the commercial portion, because we don't know what's going to be developed there. So this is all we show. But Greystar is kind of estimated in the end to be a little over $50 million of taxable value. And so you're really kind of multiplying that value to your city by 100. And that's to promote other growth and everything else that you're going to need as your city continues to grow. So that kind of concludes my presentation. If there's something we need to go back and kind of drill down into, I'm happy to do that and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before she goes? Can you show me the front of one of the perimeter homes? Do you have that available?
Yeah.
One of the perimeters
You
that
know, I
doesn't
don't know
face.
if we have completely designed one of those yet. Yeah, so all of these, as we were kind of like settled on what direction we were going with architecturally, we're kind of getting our architect to design them one by one. And so this is what we had done for this presentation, but we can definitely get that done probably by next week.
But it'll look similar to the top right there. Basically, you'll have a
Yes.
garage and a front door.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
that's what those will essentially look like.
yes. And those have the more benefit of like more backyards typically. Those typically have the driveways, et cetera.
And the backyards on those would still have this decorative, same as the other ones?
So in between, so those right here, like their
These.
back of it would have the masonry screen wall. They'd be in between. And then they would have more of the decorative fencing kind of going back towards. So you're still keeping that openness of the whole thing. When you have density, you don't want to kind of close it all off with fences. It starts to feel kind of boxy. But it still feels, the residents still feel like they have a sense of place and a sense of, this is kind of my area.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, were you gonna go ask
Yeah,
a
I'm
question?
gonna, yeah. No, I wasn't. I was gonna
Okay.
just open it up for another.
Is there any intention to have street access where these streets meet the back of, and that might be better for you,
So
Ben.
on Shadow Bend right here, and yeah, I don't have that showing there. It is connected. And so the developer is completely open. It's really kind of whatever the neighborhood want. Do you want it to be kind of fire access, emergency access only? Do you want it to be open all the time? There is street connectivity right there. We are completely open it toward being gated or not gated. It would be really up to,
That Shadow Bend, that one could go in.
yeah,
I don't think Fox Hollow could.
I
It's
don't
right
think
at the
Fox Hollow
pond.
can.
It dead ends.
it dead ends into the pond. Mhm.
Okay, and then I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Mhm.
So the pond is gonna be dedicated to the city and there's public parking for the public to come and fish. And what bathroom are they supposed to use?
Well,
It's just a novel question because
Yeah,
if
I
you're
mean, that's a
inviting the
great
public
question.
to
I mean, I
come
don't think we've
fish-
gotten so far as restroom facilities. I think that there's a lot of parks in lots of different cities that don't necessarily have restroom facilities. And so I think if you're gonna come out and fish for the day, then. I don't,
I think we'll, it's a really good point.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I
it's,
hadn't
it
even thought
just
about
was kind of
restroom
like,
situation yet.
well, I don't know, if I bring my kid, I don't have little kids anymore, but if I was to bring a kid out there and you're gonna go fishing, then you gotta pack everything up and you gotta leave.
So as part of this clubhouse design, we actually have outdoor restroom facilities and we can
Okay.
make those publicly accessible.
Okay. And then my other question would be, there's a lot of density here. I don't have any problem with density.
Mhm.
So adding those to the ISD doesn't even matter how many kids it is. I would assume that somewhere in there, there needs to be a bus stop. That there's gonna be some kind of. Who said what?
I think covered.
Yeah, a covered bus stop.
Y'all have
Because you
covered
can't-
Y'all have covered bus stops for your kids?
The newer neighborhoods do.
The
Oh.
neighborhoods do, yeah.
Oh, I'm impressed. I mean,
Well-
seriously, my kids stand on the rain.
It's
um,
it's really terrible when they get hit by hail.
Okay.
So, so that's a question because you can't put them on 342. That's a commercial area. That would just be unsafe.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah,
that's
can we,
popping into my head that-
You know, I think there's probably like space right through here, maybe where it kind of tucks down in the beginning of the neighborhood, maybe there's somewhere there we can kind of put it, how large do they have to be? If we could get specs for that, we can kind of program that in. Another option is to make it in front of the clubhouse as well. That could be an option. We could have some kind of awning or we've done a couple of communities that have more, in more urban areas that do more ride share. And so they have a place for folks to wait for their ride share. And so I think that's all a valid question that, yeah, we weren't thinking of. So that could definitely be programmed into if you'd like to give us some direction on where you'd like to see that.
And so this butts up against Fox Hollow, right?
The pond, yes, ma'am. So if you go out there at the end of Fox
whole
Holly,
pond
you can
does.
basically step into the pond on a high day.
I'm sorry, just looking in aerial so I can see.
So this is that's.
There's a
Hollow
Maya's.
Drive and there's Shady Grove, so, and Maya's up there.
Best for us to go and ask all our questions now, or do we need to close
Yeah,
the
we're
public
probably.
hearing?
Yeah, so I have a few myself.
Just make sure no one else wants to speak.
I'm sorry.
And then close it. and
Okay.
then we can ask questions.
I just needed to see that stuff.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We did receive a letter that was, for this development, 101, what is that? Is that Bodart?
Bodart.
Bodart Drive. They just checked the box and said they was for. Her name is, Marissa Arias. And we did receive, another letter that was against, 530 Rusty Creek Trail. That individual that didn't give any comments. They just said it was against this project. And first name was Gary. I think his last name is Dreifer, not for sure. Did we have anyone here that had any questions for this project or was against this project? Please state your name and your address, please.
Brett Hess, 1455 East FM 813 Palmer. And I represent the owners of the property. I am one of the owners and we support this project. We investigated these guys before we went under contract. Gray Star is top notch. And I've been involved in development across the Metroplex, mainly in Ellis County. There was a need for this type of product. I'm one of those guys, you know, I just sold my 4,100 square foot home in Red Oak and went to 1,400 square feet. I don't want anything to take care of anymore. I want to spend half my time traveling. But incredible product, great builder. It takes a property that's basically hidden. You really don't see that. It's really not that visible and they have tremendous elevations, in my opinion. You know, it's covered up by Gilbreth and a couple other more industrial type things. And I think it's a huge improvement to the area. Thanks for listening.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I'll move it, close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioner, I know we have questions, so whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. Well, I like the concept overall. I mean, I like the idea of rental housings, mixed housing, all of that I think is good, but there are some things about this particular layout that I'd just like to see changed or questions answered. If you are, so if you are like many people and keep your garage chock full of stuff and can't park your cars there, there's not enough parking in the neighborhood for that many people. So how are y'all gonna manage that?
This is the beauty of something in a for sale neighborhood that you can't, but in a rental neighborhood, you absolutely can. So anyone that signs a lease with us, this is going to be, it is a requirement in all of our leases. And if not, then it can get to the point of eviction. So yeah, we absolutely, garages are for parking only.
Okay.
And we do not allow it, and we have access to the home. We need to solve it.
And then you might as well stand there.
I'm gonna hang out.
So if you live in one of these blocks, like to the left of the picture, and you want to walk to the stores, it looks like you have to walk down the streets. There's not sidewalks.
This doesn't have, you're right, this plan is, we're still in the preliminary
Okay.
phase. There will be sidewalk connectivity to get you all the way up to the commercial.
Okay, that's good. It'd be great if there was a trail all the way around the pond. I don't know if.
There is,
I don't know.
yeah.
There will be?
Once again, preliminarily, this is the stage we are at,
Okay.
but we are putting a trail all the way around the pond.
Great. And on the right side of the picture, the north side, where there's just green space, is that gonna, I just know it would kind of be maintained, so.
It's maintained, it's
kids wanna go play
floodplain.
there, Dogs walk or whatever.
Yeah, we can't put anything vertically over there because it is floodplain.
Okay.
You know, we probably you actually can't really put a fence in either because of it being floodplain, but yeah, we'll definitely maintain it.
Okay.
Yep.
I think those are my questions so far.
I guess one of the questions that I have, I guess the backyards that are fenced, I guess how would y'all get access? Is there gonna be a small gate y'all can go through?
Absolutely, there is to maintain it because we have to mow it and all, and so all of these homes are the cool thing about property management in general is just technology is taking over, and so we have access with phones now to get in if we need to, and we'll let the resident know we're coming, and they know what day we come and mow. But yes, all these backyards will have access for lawnmowers.
Okay.
And Nikki used the word Pleasantville. That's what it's going to feel like. I mean, it's, we haven't done one of this scale. We have intermixed some homes into like our multifamily developments, like in Grapevine, we just finished one. And the homes lease the fastest in those communities, but it does feel very, I mean, it's very planned, and it's all the maintenance on them we're meticulous about it.
So I guess since I live in Red Oak, I can drive to this community and I can use that fire pit if I wanted to.
It is going to be open to the public. And we have this in other communities. It rarely gets used. I think what the community is going to use here is the pond. So, I mean, we're not preventing you from using that fire pit. You won't have access to the clubhouse. You will have to have a key to get, or your phone to get into the clubhouse, or the pool that will be off. But we cannot provide some public restroom facilities.
And I guess for as safety, from the property management standpoint, how many security guards, a property like this, that's that big, how many security guys do you think you might need but you got the public coming in and you got individuals that stay in there. That's kind of
Yeah, so I think I'd probably look at it through the lens of like a multifamily, the Emerson is one of your multifamily, developments, and then, the one off right at Mobile and, 35. They're not gonna have any security guards there. And they have 300 to 400 residents versus 200 residents. And just like a 200 resident, single family community would not have security guards at it. It's just not a typical, it's not something that's typical.
Right.
If I will say, some of our multifamily developments that are like in Deep Ellum, we didn't have security. Crime became a problem. We have security. So if crime becomes a problem, we're not gonna just sit by and let it happen.
Right.
But I think we're gonna go in with the assumption that there's probably not gonna be enough crime to warrant a security guard. Another thing we do, one of these homes will be occupied by a police officer. So we will have a courtesy officer that lives in the development. And they live at a significantly discounted rate.
Okay. Okay.
Where is that elevation? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I will say this is gonna be an incredibly well-lit neighborhood, more well-lit than any single family neighborhood in Red Oak. And that is kind of the beauty of density in single family, if you do get it denser, just naturally you are gonna have more light and more people tends to prevent crime. Another cool thing is like Amazon, in a multifamily, you kind of just deliver the packages to, the clubhouse. Here, they're going to go to the individual homes. That's a cool feature for the residents.
What kind of rent rates are you targeting for these, like smallest to largest, I guess?
I'm going to answer the question, Ben. I am also going to caveat it with,
I understand, but you've done a
not
pro
built.
forma.
Yeah, it's not.
You've done a pro forma.
I've done a pro forma. So our one beds are going to be about $1,800 a month. The Emerson, for example, their one beds, I think, are like 1,400, but then you need to, if you add it on a garage, or if you got one with a pet yard, then you're going to be at that $1,800. So this is, hey, you're not going to share a wall, floor, or ceiling with anyone. You're going to have a 2-car garage that you can pull directly into, and you're going to have a yard to let your dog out in, and you can do it for the same price, as the other surrounding multifamily developments. And then the 4 beds, to answer your question, think like 1,800 to 2,800. It's kind of going to be the range of rents here.
So demographically speaking, what does that income level of your patrons end up being?
I like doing math exactly on the spot, Ben. You could have emailed me these questions.
What, 40%?
Yeah,
What is
I'd say the 1 beds, you probably need to be in the 50 grand a year range. And then the 4 beds, you need to be in the 90 grand or more, range.
Oh, that's all I have right now.
I am going to say this one more time as a Red Oak native, because there is not another community like this in the country. And so there will be a ton of people. It will set the standard. People will come to Red Oak to this is what we want. And that was the intention, is we wanted to bring best in class to Red Oak first.
So with that being said, I got a question for staff. This is brand new. This is something, and without a doubt, I think there's a need for a product like this. I think this is a development that is needed out there. I've got 2 kids in their 20s, and for them to buy a house, I don't even know how they're gonna do it. But is our community ready for it? Do we want it? To that end, we sent out letters. How many letters did we send out? Do you know?
Property owner letters? was in the thirties,
Was it 30?
30s.
Yeah, and I know we have, the minimum that we're required to do is not a lot, but. to
It's
get
200 feet within the property.
Right,
That's-
so-
That's what we have to send out.
200 feet looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 houses.
Well, I mean, it's property owners. It's not just residents, it's
Right.
property owners. So anybody that owns property within 200 feet, even if they don't live in the city, we still send them a letter. So I want to say, actually, one of the notes we received back was from someone that lives in the county, not in the city.
Right, yeah, I think one of them was, yeah. From a ways off, it was across 342, it looked like, so,
Yes, but I think they own.
property is actually
Property.
buildings higher.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they were notified
All
because they own property.
So, and the reason I bring it up is we're bringing in something, or contemplating bringing in something completely new, something completely different to our community, and we were asking 30 people in our community if they like it or agree with it.
Right, the people that would be most affected.
Right.
But what I will go back to, like, something completely new, is when we were having our comp plan meetings, the word innovative was thrown around a lot.
Right.
And so to me, this could be looked at as innovative, just because there isn't anything like that here in particular. Like, I know Arlington and Grand Prairie have some built to rent, but it's definitely not like this. It's much tighter and it does not provide the amenity level that's provided here.
Right.
Emma, let me
Jump right there real quick, I'll show them a couple of layouts of the one I'm talking about.
We're asking about the median price range. For the standard is 3 times your income, so if they were doing $1,800 a month, that's 21,600 a year in rent. They need to be making 75,000 plus to be able to afford to live. You can't put half your income into your rent. No stellar company would rent to you.
So this is a Grand Prairie along 161, along that Epic corridor, where they've got a lot of the new development going in, but this is a build to rent community that I would say is much tighter than what's being proposed. You can see they have some of that muse, with much tighter spacing.
There are 1 bedrooms there, no garages.
Right, this is all like car parked.
Those 1 bedrooms there, make
Yeah.
no garages and there's 600 square.
Yes, so much smaller, much tighter. And then the other one that I just know offhand may not even show up on. Again, it may be the same developer. They look extremely similar. But certainly not as nice as Elevations. More carports, less garage, no attached garages. Things like that, so. Even of the build to rent that's around this Metroplex right now, I would still call what they're doing innovative, just and different.
I feel like if we're gonna introduce build to rent, this is a nicer way to do it. We're already having a nicer looking place than some of the ones we just saw.
And I'll also remind you that we already have build to rent. It just got sold as a single family subdivision and then they just built a bunch of rent houses. And that would be the Camden development. That is right here. Sure.
Is that just to educate, because build to rent is new.
but you've seen some examples, and this is the most common example and what gets brought to towns like Red Oak. And this is what I don't want to see happen in Red Oak. So it is treated as just your 50-foot lot neighborhood. It meets all the zoning requirements and it's just standard down the fairway. However, there's no maintenance standards in the PDs. And it's the yards are not going to be maintained. The fences that Nikki talked about earlier, I assure you, we can go drive this right now. These fences are already going to look, and it's a brand new community. And then this is a sneaky way builders are getting it built. And so I think if nothing else, take the education that we are given, and we've done these, that PD is so important to protect a city. And I think, and if you can't find a developer that's willing to put in maintenance standards into their PD, then they're not meant to be a developer for this. And we're one of just a handful that would do something like that. But I think it shows that our level of commitment to what we're presenting you tonight is what we want you to have forever, and not be something like this, because this is not going to age well.
I guess those other build or rent communities, I guess I'm thinking just the accessibility for other people to come in those communities. Those the ones that Ben showed, I guess, like to me, like a huge apartment complex, homes inside, and it's a fence and it's a gate, so only residents can get in and get out. But this development here, it's like to me, anybody, I can go over there and just start walking around.
Yes,
And people don't know who I am or what I'm doing, and I can bring whoever I want over to
exactly.
that division.
And hang out there for a while.
I can hang out. I can
You
bring
can park
5
there.
cars, 6 cars.
Exactly.
I can have a picnic over there. I mean, I'm not even a resident.
But you
If
can
we-
live in a regular neighborhood too.
Right.
If gating it solves that concern, we're happy to gate it. What we were trying to be mindful of was that pond and making that a community feature. But listen, we gate a lot of our communities and we do not gate a lot of our communities.
Right.
I don't want that to, if that's what we want to be adamant about, we're happy to gate it.
Sure.
But the community feature of the pond will just be to the residents at that point. And so
Right.
we were trying to make that a true public amenity.
Well, we could try to work around it. It just becomes that how do we get public access into the park area? And then with that development being done, whenever it got done and no forethought of how the pond would be utilized. Well, that all happened and we got to deal with it now. It's just, well, what do? You put a big cul-de-sac and build it over the top of the pond and then, okay, well, great. Now you got a cul-de-sac, but what about parking? How are we going to get people in there to be able to park and utilize the pond? So we have thought through that and I think that's why staff is fine with not doing the gated community. Whereas, if the pond wasn't there, then we'd say, yeah, let's just gate this thing and call it a day.
But since the pond is there, you think it's better to open it up for the public? Is that what you
It's gating it is tough to get people there. Okay, so if we, so you can see here the pond, and then you got the end of this street, the end of this street. So if we get connection into here and then connection from 342, we've got access to the pond, but if we gated here and gated here, now we're meeting our fire requirements, right? We typically we gotta have two points of access for fire. So, okay, great. How do we get the community to be able to utilize this pond? Well, if you look at doing just a cul-de-sac, I mean, you'd have to offset it to keep away from this. So you're looking at this much of the pond being taken up by a cul-de-sac. And then what? Well, now I gotta put some kind of parking. Now I'm eating up even more of the pond. I'm thinking I'm taking away from detention here as well. So now we're losing value to a new detention pond when we already have one in place.
Right.
So it's not that it can't be done, and it's not that it's not a good idea, it's just maximizing the available land for high-value product versus a street that we have to build over the top of a pond and then maintain. It's, again, not that it can't be done. Just maybe not a great return on investment.
So who's gonna be liable for the upkeep of the pond again?
That'll be the city once they make the improvements. And from a detention structure standpoint, they'll have to maintain their own detention structures. But as far as the pond itself, it'll be turned over to the Parks Department.
So are we not concerned about potential drownings with the homes in close proximity? I mean, I get it. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I mean,
Same thing at our other pond.
yeah, it's
Right
gonna
by.
be any
Like-
waterway we have in the city, there's, we got homes backing all up to Red Oak Creek. I mean, is it a concern? Sure. But it's the same concern we have when someone has a pool in the backyard.
Yeah, but the city's not required to put a 6-foot fence around it. Or beeping doors.
Right? I imagine the building code will still, well, I'm just saying for for these homes, the proximity to the water, the gates will have to lock and so on and so forth. From a building code perspective.
Of course, yeah, the homes themselves, I don't think that would be the concern. It's the people that are just walking around the trails. That would be but I guess that would be in any waterway feature,
Well, it would be any home that's near water, including someone who has a pool. The Texas property code states that you have to have a 6-foot fence, has to have a spring-loaded gate or an audible door alarm, et cetera, et cetera. That wouldn't be any different than that person's backyard going, doesn't matter if it's treated with chlorine or not.
Sure, yeah, the homes themselves will be whatever is required by the International Residential Code. We would not ever sway from that. I might have misunderstood your question. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about just people walking around.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be someone who's walking around, but that's a different story.
Okay, yes, we
Um,
would adhere to all the local and state laws for that.
Was Emma or Ben, either one, enforceability of this PD? Should it change ownership? Is there a problem with that?
No, once it goes into the solidified, once the PD gets solidified in the entitlements process, then our code enforcement, like Nikki was saying, if the shrubs die or a tree dies that was on the approved landscape plan, we would send code enforcement out there and say, hey, look, you guys this is part of your zoning. You're out of compliance with your zoning. You have to replace the tree or whatever it is.
And that would be the same if they sell and it goes to a different
Yes, because the
owner?
entitlements run with the land, not with the person.
So this is still somewhat conceptual at this stage. We're not approving a final design at this point.
Well, this would be the general layout.
Okay.
Unless it's hindered by some engineering issue.
Okay,
and
but I mean, things like it doesn't show all the sidewalks. They said they would add.
Right, and I mean, it's on the records and we understand that, we know that, we would be requiring
Okay.
that at the time of building permit or site layout permit.
We can
Okay.
also put that in the PD, in the recommendation right now, so that it can actually enter into the PD regulations. For those, because they mentioned the sidewalk, and then they also mentioned the, restroom, that it's going to have access to the public without needing a gate card. So those things can be actually put in at this point.
In the trailer around the pond. but-
Yes. sure.
Okay.
I would say anytime that we get into full design, what would end up happening is I rarely ever see that they get to add a lot or a house or whatever. It usually goes the opposite way because there needs to be more grading or more area for detention or whatever, and they end up losing. So if anything, it typically goes not in the favor of the development at all.
All right, commissioners, anything else? You have any list for questions?
I
Anything from you?
still would have liked to have seen some community input. Just because of the newness and differentness of it. I don't know if that's something we could do, or we already passed that. And I know this isn't the final, this is just us giving it to the council, but
Right.
Before the council heard it, I definitely would want to hear, allow the community to weigh in a little bit.
I'm sure
So
you
I
could put it
understand
on
what
the
you're
Red
saying,
Oak
but-
Talk and get a bunch of people riled up about it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I understand your point there, Michael, but how do we get the community point? I mean, we have a public hearing now, theoretically, they could, well, not even
And
theoretically, they could be
additionally,
here
at
tonight.
council as well, right?
Yeah,
So there'll be two public open forums on
Well,
this.
I don't know how we can go out and get them to.
So to my,
participate.
my point on that, I live 300 feet from this development, and if I wasn't on this board, I wouldn't know about it. So that's the point I was making.
But I don't know how we reach people without spending a lot of money on postage, and maybe that's the only way, but I don't know how we reach people.
What some cities do is beyond the minimum 200 feet state requirement, they'll do like 400 feet or 500 feet. That extra 300 feet would be like a courtesy. But of course, if they were to vote, it wouldn't count towards the minimum 20% position.
So I will speak to I do think it does provide a nice transition from a traditional neighborhood into the commercial area. I do like that aspect of it.
I could too.
Even though it's my neighborhood, that's going to be transitioning. I do have some concerns about the streets connecting and whether it should be gated or not, but I agree with the developers saying that if we do gate it, it's gonna limit, who can get in there and use it. So.
Right.
I'll mention one other thing from an engineering standpoint is that we don't have a lot of access to sewer in the city. This is one of the few places that has access to sewer. And so we should utilize it as best as possible. And having this much value, and this many people paying into the fund, can help lower over time the overall cost for everyone in the city. So that's also something to consider.
Any other questions? I don't have anything. All right, commissioners, can I have a motion for agenda item 5, please?
So I'll try to get this right. I'll move that we approve agenda item 5 with the addition of a trail around the pond, publicly accessible restrooms, and sidewalks such as you can walk between blocks or walk to the commercial areas.
And a bus stop?
And a covered bus stop.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. Agenda item 5 has been approved. Moving along, agenda item 6 is another public hearing and consider zoning change from plan development 28R to plan development 28R2 for the development of a senior multifamily complex on the property described as Lot 2B, Pleasant Ridge Retirement Community in Ellis County, PID number 230930, City of Red Oak, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-45, requested by Ben Talib. Staff, please.
Commissioners, the applicant is requesting that this item be postponed to the next P and Z meeting.
Okay. Agenda item 6 has been postponed. Agenda item 7, which is another conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from C1 to Plan Development 163 to allow for reduced landscaping and parking requirements on the site described as Lot 2B, Block A, Red Oak Business Park, #1, and addressed as 305 State Highway 342, City of Red Oak, Ellis County. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-32, requested by John Bush. Staff, please.
Commissioners, the applicant has postponed this request about 5 times and they still don't have a specific date for when they're going to have all the improvements ready. Because they're supposed to actually have a shared parking agreement with the adjacent site. So the adjacent site hasn't put in all the improvements, so they're not ready at this point. They don't have a specific date. So instead of keep tabling it, staff is recommending denial without prejudice. And without prejudice means that they're able to come in and apply within a year, because our zoning ordinance states that if it's not specified that they're allowed to come back and apply without, it says that if it's not specifically mentioned at city council, that they can come back and apply. They have to actually wait a year if it's the exact same request. So we're recommending denial without prejudice so that even if they're ready within 2 months or 3 months, they can come back without having to wait a year.
Yeah, essentially, we're just trying to clear this from the books officially so that they can get all their stuff together and bring it in.
Okay.
Can I ask you real quick, where, is that dance studio?
Yes, correct.
It's over by,
Right next to Bauer Aquatics.
next to what?
Bauer Aquatics. It was approved in around August. You all looked at it? Yeah, gold medal
Gold
pools.
Medal Pools. Okay,
Yeah,
I know where that
they
is.
came, yeah, so they got their zoning approved, where
Okay.
they, actually, city council made them take down the carports.
Right.
and they have to
Okay.
put in the concrete, removes the gravel. They put the masonry on the exterior of the
On the
building.
exterior.
Yes. And these people will be doing the same thing with the exterior of the building.
Okay.
They just haven't got all their documents in order yet.
Okay. Can I have a motion for agenda item 7?
I make a motion that we deny without prejudice agenda item 7 and allow the petitioner to come back within a year to this commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 7 will be denied without prejudice, come back within a year. Agenda item 8 is a staff discussion for number 8 for the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee for input on required and reoccurring impact fee updates. Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
So our impact fees, impact fees are done every 5 years. And our first set of impact fees was done in 2018. And so, by law, we have to update them every 5 years. So we're a little late, but since we already started working on them, we're meeting the intent of the law. At the first, go round of the water and sewer, which is the only thing we have right now, a capital improvements advisory committee was put together to make a recommendation to council, which is part of the law. That they have to review the impact fee study and make an assessment and make a recommendation to the council. So in 2018, that board was the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Right.
The council has not done that yet, but I just wanted to let you guys know that they probably will appoint you guys as it's CIAC for short, Capital Improvements Advisory Committee. And what we'll be looking at is a report. It's gonna have all of our infrastructure from a water and sewer standpoint with all of our planned projects. And basically, they just take all those planned projects, divide, have a big number for them and divide it and in the water sewer case, it's based on meter size. And so they size it out by meter. And if you do a new development and you get a meter that's a 1-inch meter, that means you're gonna use X number of gallons of water, which means you're gonna have X number of gallon of sewer. And that's causing an impact to our system, which means we have to upgrade, upsize. And so we collect a fee based on that amount. So what they'll come up with is a maximum fee. So they'll say, okay, based on all these projects you have and all this development you may have, the maximum fee is $10,000 per house. Is usually how it gets, well, again, it's meter size, but you look at it on like a residential usage basis. And so what you guys will say is, okay, well, what are other cities charging? What was their max? And then what are they charging? So right now, I think our max, the max in 2018 was 8,500 or something like that. But we only charge 3,000.
Okay.
A new component for this year's is we're adding a roadway impact fee. So almost every other city in DFW does roadway impact fees, and they kind of work the same way. Let's look at our transportation plan. Where are we widening? Where are we putting in new roads? What's the cost of that? Divide it all by the number of developments that'll become. And so when that gets applied, that'll be something, it goes more based on use and number of trips generated. So it's basically, okay, I'm gonna open this business. It's a super intense business, like a drive-through. So it's gonna warrant a lot of movements, turning movements for traffic and a lot of cars and trips per day. So it'll be, $1,000 per 1,000 square feet of space you have. And it gets applied that way. And again, there'll be a maximum ceiling that's set, and then a recommendation, then from you guys, and then an implementation on a fee basis that the council will implement. So I just wanted to let y'all know that that's kind of coming up, and that the study is being finalized right now. And if the council, which I think they will, kind of appoint y'all again as the CIAC, that will kind of walk you through that process. And we're checking to see if it has to be a public meeting. I know when they adopt them at council, it'll be a public hearing. But I think the CIAC is, it just has to be reviewed by you guys, and it may not be in a public setting, like an open meeting or something. It may be confined to just review on your own. But that's where staff will write up a report as well with a staff kind of recommendation, and probably some other numbers from other cities to kind of just see where they're at and what their max was and what they're actually charging, just so y'all have good information.
Okay.
So that's all it was. Just wanted to make you guys aware that was going to be coming up.
Is anybody from the council sitting in on our?
Not typically on the CIAC. Now they can,
No.
but it would be you guys, and then we actually need one additional person who is a Red Oak resident, I can't remember the exact terminology, but it's someone who's not in government, but is involved with real estate development in some form or fashion. So
Right.
if you know anybody, you can make a recommendation to the council that they also maybe want.
Okay. And that person will be on the CIAC.
CIAC with you guys, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. Number 9 is, I guess, discussion with economic development staff concerning the economic development chapter of the comprehensive plan.
So the person that requested that section is actually not here tonight, so we are going to postpone to the next P and Z meeting.
Okay. So number 9 would be postponed to the next planning zoning commission meeting.
You can't say who it was?
I don't know.
We know who it is. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Planning zoning commission has now been adjourned.